So I already see some of you handed it in. I haven't taken a look at it, but let's see if we got the idea. So there are three locations I was asking you to do for this first one: a plus b, a minus b, and b minus a. First thing I want to do is identify what b is and a is. So in this case, b is a negative number, and a is also a negative. So let's focus on the first one, a plus b. Well, if I do a plus b, so let me write a plus b. They're both negative, so it's a negative plus another negative. Now, if I'm adding two negatives together, think about what I'm doing. So let me put a over here. So a is this distance right here, right? And b is this distance right here. So b is definitely bigger than a, right? Now, they're both negatives, meaning that I am going to move further to the left on the number line. I am adding their absolute value. So here's me walking to a, right? And then what am I going to do that? And to that, I'm going to add this distance of b to the end of a, but I'm moving further left on the number line, sorry, and I'm going to go a little bit more. Right, so if I add that distance of a, the absolute value of a, plus the absolute value of b, and I put those two distances together, I'm gonna get this final distance, right? And that's what a plus b is. Okay, it's a negative plus a negative, so I'm moving further left on the number line. Okay, I'm adding both their absolute values together, and the direction we're heading to is left. Okay, so we're decreasing in value. Okay, so I added the absolute value of a plus the absolute value of b. Okay, which gives me, now put it in blue here, or I'll shade it. And that's my answer, right there. Right, those are the two combined values. The distance that a is from 0 and the distance that b is from 0 combined gives me that value there. Okay. Let me move on. So a plus b, sorry, put a plus b. This is where a plus b is. Okay. Erase that. Now the second part it says a minus b. Well, a minus b, well, a is negative, so let me just write that a is a negative number. And I'm subtracting b, which is also a negative number, right? Whatever that negative number is. Now, if you can understand it from here, you can go ahead and plot a minus b location, the location of a minus b. But if you want to change this, so now we have a negative minus a negative. If you want to change that to an addition problem, some of you might. So if we change that to an addition problem, we're going to change that and it becomes negative, and then that subtraction problem is the same as adding the additive inverse of the second added. So if the second added is a negative, right, its additive inverse is going to be positive. Okay, so now it's easier for you maybe to understand what's going on here. So we have a negative plus a positive. So here's a negative number, which is a. So a plus b. So a minus b became a plus b. So negative, and that's how much a is, plus a positive. In this case, the positive b is this much, right? So if I'm adding a negative plus a positive, in this case, so from the negative, if you think about it, I am from 0 walk to the negative, right? Walk the distance that a is to the left, and then I add this value, the absolute value of b, but because it's a positive number, I'm increasing in value. I'm going to cover whatever a is, and I go that way. So a minus b, which is what we, right? 8 minus b ends up being around here. Now, if you think about it, it's what am I doing with these two values here? What am I doing with the absolute value of A? What am I doing with the absolute value of B? Am I combining those two? No. From the absolute value of B, I'm subtracting the absolute value of A. So from this, which is B, right? How much did I take away from that? I took away this much here, which was A, so I'm left with this part right here. And that part is what 8 minus B is. Okay, so A minus B would definitely be over there. Now, the other thing you could have done here, right, you can use the commutative property and change that negative to positive. And if you want to view it in a different way, all I'm going to do is write positive plus a negative, right? So the positive, this still ends up being B. And this is A. So it's a positive plus a negative. So either way, and let me do that here. So if you're at 0, I'm going to walk that distance, which is B. And then when you add a negative, you're decreasing in value. So from the end of B, I take away A. And either way, you still land over here, A minus B. So think about what you're doing with these two values here. They're two distances away from 0, right? They're two absolute values. Are you combining those two distances, or are you subtracting one from the other one? In this case, I'm subtracting one from the other one, right? And because B has the greater absolute value, right, the answer is going to be a positive, and that's where A minus B is. It's in the positive territory. Okay. And then we have one more, B minus A. Okay. So we have B minus A. So let's see what B minus A is. Well, B is a negative. And I'm subtracting from B A, which is also a negative. So again, if you want to change it, you can. This one I'm not going to, I'll change it second. Okay, so let's just do this problem and see what happens. Okay, so here is your start at 0, right? So the first thing you do, you walk B, you go to B. And then from that negative value, somebody's going to come. So you're at B right now. And somebody's going to come to you, and they're going to remove they're going to remove negatives from you. So let me talk about in debt. So here you are at B. You owe somebody B dollars. You're in debt. You're not in positive territory, right? So you're here in debt, under 0, less than 0, under 0, and you owe money. Now, I come to you and I say to you, let me take some of that negative away. So you are in negative territory. I'm going to remove some of the negative from you, some of that debt from you. How much am I going to remove from you? I'm going to remove this much. So this is how much you have in debt right now. This is 0 and this is B, right? That's how much. You're all the way here. You're in debt, right? And then I come to you and say, I'm going to remove some stuff. That's what this means. Mr. Cho is coming around and taking away some of that debt from you. How much debt am I going to take? I'm going to take this much right here. This is how much I'm going to take away from you. So I come to you and I say, let me take that. And if you measure, let me take that line here. I'm going to remove this much from you. That looks like A. Right? So this is gone. So if I take that debt away from you, right? I'm going to go here and I'll remove the value of A. And so it means that you are more toward, you're definitely closer to 0 toward, you're definitely to the right now, right? You move to the right on the number line, which makes you, in terms of value, you have less debt, right? You increase your worth. So you end up being over here. So if you didn't change it to an addition problem, and you can sort of view it this way, that'd be okay. Or if you did change it, oops, right, let me erase some of this stuff. And then if you did change it, You're like, that's a little bit too confusing. That's fine. So you had a negative minus a negative, and if you change that to an addition problem, right? Rewrite that as an addition problem. You got a negative, and subtracting is the same thing as adding. The additive inverse of the second addend. So if it's a negative, it's going to be a positive. So let's think about what this is. So we got a negative plus a positive. Here's your negative. It's this big. And here plus your positive, which is this big right here. So this is B, and this is A. So if you're adding a negative plus a positive, what am I doing with these two, what do you call, with these two distances, with these two absolute values? Am I putting one next to each other like this? Right? Am I doing that? If it was a negative plus a negative, yes. Or if it was a positive and a positive, yes. But I'm not. It's one is negative and one's positive. So from the larger one, which is B, I have to remove A. So what ends up happening is I have this value B. Oops. Right? This is B. And from B, I'm going to remove a little bit. I'm going to take this guy away. Right? I take that. If I take that away, which is this much away, and I take it out, this is what I have left over. So again, think about that. This is what you started with, right? So let me erase this. You were at 0. You were in debt, right? And you're at negative, and then somebody gave you money, which means you're increasing how much money you have. You're going from negative to a little bit better situation. So you go that way. They didn't give you a lot of money, but how much money they give you? They gave you this much, this value right here, that distance. So you go from here, and you move over just a little bit to the right. And you're still in the negative territory, right? But you owe a little bit less. Okay, so maybe you want to start thinking about what's happening with these two absolute values. Are we putting them together, or are we subtracting one from the other? Okay, so let me see if this is a little bit clear, and then I'll go to the next question. So let's do 2 plus 3 only because now if you think about 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what's 2? 2 is this much. Let me call that. And then 3 is this much. Now this is a positive plus a positive. We all know it's going to be a positive, and you further to the right of the number line, therefore increasing your value, right? But what am I doing with these two distances? Am I putting the 2 and then putting the 3 next to each other and getting it combined? So the 2 and this is 3, and then combining those two distances, which in this case is what we want, right? 2 and 3, which equals 5. Or am I doing 2 and then and this is 3, am I subtracting one from the other? So if I have 3, am I taking away 2 and then I have this one left? What am I doing with these two absolute values? In this case, because they're both positive, right? We're combining those two, even if they were negatives, right? So the first thing we do is walk to -2, and let's say the question was -2 plus -3. What am I doing with their absolute values? I'm putting, here's -2, and to -2, I'm going to add the other distance, which is -3, right? I'm combining these two, right? I'm combining these two distances, except this time I'm going that way. The next problem was this. I think this is the easier one. A plus B, A minus B, and B minus A. So let's talk about A plus B. A plus B, I know that A is positive and B is a positive. So if you want to think about A is about yay big. If you think about B, B is about a little bit bigger than A. So what am I doing to these two absolute values, to these two distances? Am I combining them? Yeah, in this case I'm combining, right? Because it's a positive value plus another positive value. So in this case I combine the absolute value of A, and right next to it I'm going to put the absolute value of B. So, and this is 0 by the way. So where is A plus B? A plus B is going to be further to the right of B, right? And then it's going to be over here. So on the top of the number line here, here's A, right? To the absolute value of A, to the distance of 0 of A, that A is from 0 to that distance, which is, right, this is A, that's how big A is, and to that distance, I'm going to put B. B is about this. So A plus B ends up being here, right? I'm adding both absolute values and moving further right of 0, further to the right, increasing the value. It's the combination of both of their absolute values. A minus B. Okay. Oops. Let's erase that. A minus B. So A minus B. A is still positive. Minus and B is positive. So in this case, you want to think about it. This is how much A is, and this is how much B is. Now, how do I take this away from that? I can't, because there's not enough of A to go around. Now, if you think about in terms of debt, let's say you had $5, and I came to you and I said, I want $8 from you, right? You're going to say, Mr. Cho, I have $5 to give you, so you give me 5, and I'm going to say, okay, you still owe me 3. So then you go to your parents, and you say, Mom, Dad, can I borrow $3 because I still owe Mr. Cho? Yeah. So they give you 3, right? I get paid the 8, but guess what? You're now down 3. You might not owe me anymore, but guess what? You still owe your parents. So right now you're at negative 3. So that could be one way of thinking about this. Okay. Now, another way you might want to think about this if you want to change it to an addition problem. So again, we have a positive. So we're going to change the subtracting problem addition. So I'm going to change that to adding. It's the additive inverse of the second added. So if this is positive, it's going to be a negative. So you have a positive value. So think about it. Here's A. It's telling you that you walked A, right, to the right of the number line because it's positive. And then to add a negative means we want to move to the left on the number line, right? That's what adding a negative is. We move that way. So how far left do we go? Well, we walk this much. That's how much B is. So I got to take this guy over here. And that's how far to the left I'm going to move. All right, so now if you think about this for a second, I have A, which is this much, and B, which is this much. One is positive and one is negative. So what happens when I add a positive and a negative? Do I combine these two distances and say A, this is A and this is B? So this is what A minus B look. Is this what A minus B is? No, it's not. Right? So when it's positive and when it's negative and we're combining, think about we're taking the smaller one, the smaller what do you call it? The absolute value of the smaller ones away from the larger one. So that's B, right? I'm removing A from it. So again, that's A, so that's B. I remove A from it, and then what's left over, it's on the negative side, and that becomes A minus B. Yeah, one more. Yeah, one more. And then we have B minus A. Well, again, let's identify what we're working with. So B minus A, B is a positive value, minus A, which is also a positive value. Okay, so so in this case, you can tell that here's how big B is, and this is how much A is, and they're both positive. So again, if you're holding a certain positive value, right, you have a positive number with you, right, and I say, hey, I need to take this much away from you, however much A is, Do you have enough to give me? Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you do. In this case, you do, because if you look at it, the absolute value of b is definitely greater than the absolute value of a. So you have some to give me, and you're gonna have a little left over for yourself. How much left over? Well, once I take this much, right? Let me highlight this in blue. This is how much I'm taking away from you. Oops. This distance is that's how much I'm taking. So from b, which is you have, I'm taking this much away. And what are you left over? Here's your leftover. And that is your answer. So that leftover would probably put you around here. Right? So let's do b minus a. So here's b. And from b, starting over here, right? I gotta take a away. If I take a away, this is how much you've taken from me, and this is how. Then this is your leftover part. Okay. Now let me change that to a addition problem. So we have positive minus a positive. Let's change that to an addition problem. It's going to be positive plus the added inverse of this positive number. It's going to be a negative. Now, when it's a positive and a negative, and you're combining those two, here's positive. Where is it? B. All right, it's B, and this is A. So B is this big. A is that. What am I doing with these two distances? Am I putting them side by side? Right, this is B, and then next to it I'm going to put A. Is that my answer? The sum or the combination of both distances together? No, it's not. In this case, I'm going to remove A from B. So B being the larger one, it's gonna lose this much. I'm gonna remove this much from B, and this part, which is a leftover, is my answer. So if you look at it this way, so here's my positive, right? I'm here. I'll walk to B. All right, and then I'm adding a negative means I'm going to go to the left of the number line. How far left am I going to go on the number line? How far left am I going? I'm going the distance of A, however A is. A seems to be this big, right? From here to here. So that looks like A. So I'm going to walk. So this is B. That's how far right I went. And then from the end of B, I'm going to go left. How far left? The absolute value of A, that distance. And this, where it stops, is how much I have left over. So it stops right here. That word B is minus A, and this is the value of B minus A. Right there. Okay. Hopefully I didn't confuse you more. Okay.